Hello, I'm Stephen Louchheim. Welcome to the CEO Update. We're going to talk about standard forms, everybody's favorite topic. First, just a tip, and this has been drilled over and over, I think. Make sure whatever form you're using, whether it's the TBR forms or the Florida forms, that you have the absolute most up to date form. You can find those on Form Simplicity or in the MLS docs on Paragon. There are three statutorily required forms. The first one we're going to talk about is the Condo Rider. The Condo Rider was updated September 2025. So make sure you have the most recent version in the file. Now, we don't have as many condos in Tallahassee as other parts of the state, but it still affects us. If you listed a property in August and used the older Condo Rider, it has to be updated in the listing if you put it in standard form, associated documents, or just have the most recent version because you can't use the old version. Again, Florida statutes requires this. Flood disclosure, last updated uh, October 2025. So again, you have a listing that was before then. You use the older flood disclosure that was actually 2024. You need to get that updated. This is required by Florida law to have the most updated one. If you have the older one, you're missing a question in the form. Further, leases are now required to disclose. Now, Tallahassee Board of Realtors does not have a lease form because we don't have any lease forms. So you got to go to Florida Realtors Form Simplicity and get the flood disclosure for leased property. Most recent version, October 2025. Homeowners Association disclosure, HOA disclosure. We've had this for a very long time and has been drilled in over the years that if that is not accurate, if, for example, it's disclosed that annual fees are $100, but annual fees are now $150, the buyer can walk up until closing and receive their deposit back. That is in Florida law. So make sure if you've got the older version, which the most recent version is March 2024, has been out for a while. But if dues have changed, you list the property in September, there's a dues change from 100 to 150, do a new HOA form. Have your seller do a new HOA form to make sure you're in compliance. TBR forms versus other forms. So the Tallahassee Board of Realtors is one of two associations in the state that have their own forms. All other associations use, or the members mostly use, the Florida Realtors forms. There was almost 350,000 residential real estate transactions in Florida. This is in 2024, and 2/3 of them use the FAR bar as is contract. So that's what, 250,000 transactions closed using the FAR bar contract. So people are figuring out how to use it, and it's important for you to understand how to use it. You may prefer the TBR contract, but frankly, there is a lot of agents that don't have access to it. So if you get an offer from out of the area, it's going to be on probably the Florida Realtors as is contract. So understand how to use it. The out of town realtor does not have access to our forms and therefore can't use the addenda. So it makes more sense for you to understand how to use that form. Don't limit what your seller can do based on your knowledge. There's plenty of opportunities to get educated on this. We actually do classes on FAR bar contract. So look for the calendar to see when those classes are and register. Thank you very much for listening to the CEO update.